and welcome to this week's episode of the Dr. Tech Show, where myself, Pauline Roche, and Sweyn Hunter guide you through the world of online communications in a program initiated by sadly departed John Popham, a great internet evangelist. So we usually like to check out how the weather is where people are, and so we'll start with that. Sweyn, how's the weather where you are? Oh, no, you're muted.
Oh, I haven't done that for a while. Hello, everyone. The weather in Orkney, which I swear I am because we're not allowed to go anywhere else at the moment, of course, is beautiful today. It's as if February is relieved that January has gone. It's a lovely sunny day.
It's a nice way to see it. And in Birmingham, I've got sun shining through the window. So as well as my lovely ring light, which every internet presenter has these days, I have sunshine through the window. So that's really nice to see. And we're joined today as well by our special guest, Martin Saunders. So Martin, how are you? Where are you? And how's the weather where you are?
Hi, Pauline. Hi, Sweyn. Nice to meet you both. I'm very good, thank you very much. So I'm based in a town called Hawley, which is just north of Gatwick Airport, sunny Gatwick Airport. Although not sunny today, unfortunately. It is dingy and grey and raining a little bit. So not very exciting to be outside. So I'm glad to be in the warm with some bright lights shining at me to keep me warm.
Have you noticed a change in traffic since for the last 12 months?
It's incredible how quiet it is at the moment. Yeah, there's barely anything going in and out of Gatwick Airport right now. M25 is and M23 is very quiet. So yeah, it's if you moved into the area now, you really would have no idea that there's a major airport about a mile and a half that way. So yeah, it's very quiet.
I bet you're popular with family members when they can travel, but you get lots of visitors.
Yeah, well, that's actually, it's a bit of a problem in our area because people use us as a bit of a parking lot. There's a bus that goes straight to Gatwick, so you can park where we live in our estate, take your baggage, and go straight to the airport as free parking. So yes, yeah, our driveway does get used for holiday parking, but not at the moment, unfortunately.
No,
not yet. Soon though, hopefully.
Sure. So as usual, we have a few things that we like to mark around this time of year, and one that we forgot to mention last week was that on the 27th last week was Holocaust Memorial Day, which was a very important thing to remember. It's a day for everyone to remember the millions of people murdered in the Holocaust under Nazi persecution and in the genocides which followed in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, and Darfur. So we commemorate that day today on today's show. We also note that February is LGBT History Month, which is a month to celebrate the culture and wonderful things that the diversity of this community brings to the whole of the UK. And obviously, as with everything else, lockdown has changed how that will be celebrated, but we're sure there will be celebrations for this month. 1st of February is Dignity Action Day, and this is an annual opportunity for health and social care workers and members of the public to uphold people's rights to dignity and provide a truly memorable day for people who use care services, and aims to ensure people who do use care services are treated as individuals and are given choice, control, and a sense of purpose in their daily lives. And obviously, technology has a part to play in that. So on screen now is the website from Dignity and Care, which talks about Dignity Action Day, and there is a map to say where different things are happening. Obviously, not as many things this year as in previous years, but there are socially distant afternoon teas taking place. One in Birmingham, in the Birmingham area, Sutton Coldfield, I think. And I did spot one thing in Scotland as well, Sweyn. So a few things, but obviously not as many. And hopefully this time next year it'll be much more of an active celebration. But in the meantime, we hope people do receive dignity in the care that they're receiving. And one thing that is happening for Dignity Action Day is the National Pensioners Convention are having a Connections for All webinar on YouTube, and that started at 11. It may still be going on But I was tuning in earlier, and they were talking about the kind of things we talk about on this show: connectivity, data poverty, devices. So I'm sure it'll be useful for people to have a look back and see what National Pensioners Convention was talking about, and they had various speakers on that topic. This week also is Children's Mental Health Week, the 1st to the 7th of February. And Place to Be, which is a charity, launched Children's Mental Health Week in 2015 to shine a spotlight on the importance of children and young people's mental health. And they hope to encourage more people than ever to get involved and spread the word. And schools, youth groups, organisations, individuals are taking part. And this year's theme is Express Yourself, which is about finding ways to share feelings, thoughts, or ideas through creativity. And this could be through art, music, writing and poetry, dance and drama, photography and film, and doing activities that make you feel good. So on screen now is Place to Be's Children's Mental Health Week page on their website, which explains about the week and has some pictures of people doing things to express themselves. Sweyn, are you expressing yourself this week?
No doubt. I find it hard to resist. How about you?
Yes, I'm sure I will be. Not so much on the creativity side myself, but maybe reading, writing. I'm desperately trying to remember to write something every week because things do change, and it's important to remember what we were doing. Martin,
Yeah.
are you expressing yourself in some way this week?
I will try some things. My wife and my children had a painting session yesterday, which I got a little bit involved in, and they were painting owls and rainbows and other kind of fun things like that. So
Nice.
it's not my strongest point, but and I like to try and get involved.
Yeah.
I'm more trying creative electronics and more of a making capacitors blow up. Seems to be my forte right now.
Oh dear.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I just want to cover one more thing, which is about obviously we'll encourage us to get outside more, which is obviously more possible now with the weather improving all the time. We hope, and this is Big Schools Birdwatch, which is the RSPB annual event, which also incorporates Big Garden Birdwatch from the 29th to 31st of January. So this started on the 6th of January, and it's a simple bird survey for pupils to take part in and enjoy together. And for schools, it would have been about counting the number of birds in your school grounds. So they would have been encouraging the young people to do this in their lesson or lunch or over lunchtime. It's the world's largest wildlife survey, apparently. And it takes place January to February every year. But they were encouraging people to take part in the kind of the smaller part of that with the Big Garden Birdwatch, and encouraging people to say whatever they see, even if they see nothing at all, because this the more people who take part, the better snapshot they will have of how garden birds are doing, and they are encouraging people to submit their results online by 19th of February or February 15th by post. Now this is something I've just become aware of more this year, a little bit last year maybe, because I do have friends who are bird watchers. So are either of you into bird watching, and have you taken part in this before?
I haven't taken part in it before, but I actually do have so if I look out my window just here, I have a bird table right directly outside of the window, and I have a small experiment going on at the moment just to try and see what type of food the birds like. So I've got a small pile of chopped peanuts and two different types of bird food. And at the moment, the magpies are just coming in and swiping the whole lot out. So it's not at the server. It's gone a bit wrong. But I might take part in that, actually. It's a nice idea.
Yeah.
I haven't taken part in this, but like Martin, we have bird feeders outside the kitchen windows. And I saw a bird I've not seen for years and years the other week, and that was a robin. I haven't seen a robin for ages. They're not that common here. I mean, they do exist, but we've got hundreds of sparrows, which I believe is quite unusual nowadays. But we've got lots and lots of sparrows and the usual starlings and blackbirds and thrushes and all the rest of
Fantastic.
that.
I
Gulls,
never.
of course, gulls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's always struck me as really unusual being inland in Birmingham. How many seagulls we still see. So they're obviously roaming far and wide to get food these days.
Mm.
But I think our garden, we certainly have pigeons, crows, jackdaws, blackbirds. I know they're blackbirds because they're yellow beaks, and smaller brown birds as well. And my neighbour has a feeder, so we do see more birds on his side.
We have a large population of ravens
Hmm.
directly above our car park at work, which is less than ideal for most of the year. But there we are.
Hmm.
Not
So
going there
some
very much at the
symbolism
moment.
from the raven, like in the Tower of London, where if the ravens leave the car park,
Well, if
the
the
car
ravens leave the
park will
car
fall.
park, we'd all have to wash our cars a lot less frequently. That's
Yes, that's a not untypical. So let's move on to our special guest this week, which is Martin Saunders. Martin, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
And I'll tell Martin's running a project called Level Up, and I'll like to tell you a bit about the project. Level Up Red Hill Reigate Banstead is a project that provides refurbished laptops for children and young people who need them for home study. And the laptops are donated by the community and refurbished by volunteers and then distributed to children and young people via local schools and charities. It's a partnership project being delivered by Raven Housing Trust with support from Voluntary Action Reigate and Banstead and Level Up Horley. And the Borough Council in Reigate and Banstead are helping with premises, and Fidelity UK are providing volunteer support.
Mm.
And this project is also supported by Pfizer Limited, and their grant funding is covering the cost of new hard drives and other additional parts needed for refurbishment. So, welcome to the show, Martin.
Thank you
How
very
are
much.
you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much for having me on. It's very exciting.
Great. So we met a couple of weeks ago at the Digital Access Network run by oh,
I can't
West
remember the name
Yorkshire.
either.
West Yorkshire.
Yes,
That's the
that's
one.
it.
That's the one. Yes, and they're having another meeting actually at the end of February. So, hopefully we'll all be able to go to that as well. But then at that meeting, Martin, you spoke about repurposing laptops. So I quickly twigged that you were someone that we should invite onto the show. So you're very welcome. Please tell us a bit about yourself and how you got started in all this.
Yeah, absolutely. So so I started Level Up in March 2020, March last year. And the reason I started it up is I'm also a town councillor for Hawley Town. And I was attending some meetings where the town council with local schools and other kind of official bodies were meeting on a regular basis right at the very beginning of the pandemic and the first lockdown to try and understand what's going on and what help was needed. A lot of the focus at the time was around food and food parcels and getting shopping to elderly residents that weren't able to leave their house. But after the first few meetings, some of the schools started to mention that they had pupils that they were just losing contact with. They'd been sent home and they were sending them work and they were getting absolutely nothing back, no acknowledgement, no return of completed work. And when they eventually started to get hold of some of these students, they realized very quickly that they had no device to work on. At best, they might have a mobile phone. And so they might be able to do a few small things on the mobile phone, but other than that, they had absolutely nothing. So I was sitting in these meetings thinking, this is a fixable problem. This is an incredibly fixable problem. Why aren't we fixing it? And I had in the cupboard behind me, I had 5 or 6 laptops that I'd collected over the years. And I thought, well, I can refurbish those. I can get them sent out and start. So I did that. I gave them to a few schools. I took pictures of me handing over the laptop to the school in a kind of ceremonial way, and posted that on our local Facebook channel. And people then replied back saying, "Oh, I used to go to that school," or "I remember Mr. Romero, the head," or whoever else. And that sounds fantastic. And I would then get a donation of a dozen more laptops would come my way. So I'd refurbish those and put them back out again, and then I'd get another dozen back. And another dozen back, and very quickly I realized that I'm going to need to get some funding if I keep doing this. I was funding it out of my own pocket at that point. So I approached the YMCA East Surrey, who were also on these calls, and very kindly offered to help be my charity partner. So they enabled me to be able to start requesting some funds, either through a Just Giving page, but we also went to the Gatwick Airport Communities Trust, who's a very generous donor of funds in our area. And because it was backed by a charity, then we could then go to GACT and put a grant in. Grant request in. Gatwick Airport Community Trust.
Oh, sorry, yes, you just said that.
Yeah. So they enabled me to do that, and they very kindly wrote the letters, and Gatwick Airport donated £3,000, which was fantastic. And then Hawley Town Council donated £500, which was also fantastic. And that basically got us starting to then really get going. And I thought, what's the kind of size and scale of this? And Hawley is a town of about 23,000 people. So I thought maybe we might need to get to 150. And I thought the funding that I had would about get me to there. So that felt okay. So we got to 100, and the schools kept needing more laptops. We got to 150, and the schools kept needing more laptops. And unfortunately, every time we went to the schools and said, right, how are you feeling now? They went, well, another set of our parents have just now been made redundant or been put on to furlough, because Gatwick Airport is a major employer in the town. So every time we kind of got to a notional a kind of target, then the target would just expand. To the point now we've just gone through 300, so it's 316 laptops. And now I think with that and the government grants, the Hawley area is now largely done. There'll always be a need of a few more. So, but what we've done now, sorry.
Do you know what proportion you've provided compared to the government provision?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay.
So I've delivered 300, and the government has delivered slightly under 200 in the town.
Wow.
So I'm still outpacing them by a little bit at the moment. So that's been good. And actually those two sets combined, about 500 laptops for a population of 23,000 seems to have covered most of the bases. So then we've looked slightly further afield, and Hawley is part of Reigate and Banstead Borough, and Voluntary Action Reigate and Banstead and Raven Housing Trust, as you mentioned in your intro, we're very interested in keeping the project going. So we're now basically we've expanded Level Up now to also include the rest of Reigate and Banstead. Wow. And their target is, well, at the moment it's about 600 laptops. I think from my experience, it's going to go well above 1,000 when you actually start to dig into the demands of actually what they need. So yeah, it's been an interesting 9 months. I'm sick of laptops, but I'm very happy with how it's gone. But I really never want to change another hard disk in my life again.
So you said you've needed about 500 laptops for your town's population of 23,000.
Yes. Yeah.
How do you have a feel for whether that's well? First of all, do you know how many school pupils there are that you're serving in that area? And secondly, do you think that ratio is about representative, or is that less than what you would expect nationally, or more, or is it hard to say?
It's hard to say, really. I mean, so in terms of the student population, so school age, was that 4 or 5 to 18? We think it's about 2,500 in the town, so slightly over 10%. And yeah, so the 500 reasonably nicely lines up with the percentage of students on pupil premium, the kind of free school meals additional. And that obviously captures families on low income, but also there's a few other cohorts that it captures. So military families also get included into that, and a few others as well. So it seems roughly equivalent I don't have exact numbers, unfortunately, but that seems to kind of.
So that's pupil premium equivalent,
students.
As it were.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Obviously, we have a large secondary school in the town, and then a number of we have infant and junior schools actually in Hawley. So unlike a lot of places in the country, we have two different sets of schools for infant. So Key Stage 1 and then junior for Key Stage 2.
I'm just quizzing you so closely on these numbers because they seem to mirror very closely the numbers for Hawley. They seem to mirror very closely the numbers for Orkney as a whole.
Oh, really?
So it's quite interesting.
Okay.
I don't know how many laptops and devices have been made available to the schools. I should find that out, really.
I'm guessing not enough.
I'm
to
sure
be fair
it's
to
not
the
enough.
government, they're getting there, but the first when we first started this, they had a laptop offer, but it was only for children that were in social care or just coming out of social care. And I think there was one other category of it as well. And we reckon it was only about 2% of the population that would actually need it. So at that stage, then we went, right, we've got to do something about this and do it now, because there are lots of kids at home doing nothing. Now, I believe the government laptop is to eventually capture all of the pupil premium students, but they only seem to have got to about 20-30% of them so far.
So
I know that we were distributing a few, maybe 200 or maybe 300 Chromebooks at one stage. They've all gone out locally, but of course the system in Scotland will be different from
I'm sure.
England, so.
Yeah.
So once the young person has the laptop, Martin, is that the end of the story then? Are they all sorted? What is there any more to be done?
Well, so to continue on, so I don't know, tell me if I'm going to go into too much detail on this one. I can bore for Britain on this if I can. So
people can fast forward if they're watching a catch up.
Yeah, skip. So the process I use is I set myself a few standards on the kind of the quality of laptop and what I was hoping people would do with it. So I suppose the first principle of Level Up is that the laptops are always gifted to the families. Some schools would like to loan them, but I try and lay down kind of some rules with them to say, no, the whole point of this is that the laptop is gifted to the family. If that means that they don't have to worry about insuring it, if it gets broken, they don't have to worry about getting it fixed before handing it back. Frankly, if they're in a dire situation that means that they have to sell it in order to put food on the table, I'd rather they did that than keep hold of a laptop and potentially have something valuable that could be used for something else. So that's kind of one aspect of things. The other thing is also that although this is obviously primarily for school children, the rest of the family also will, I'm sure, want to get use of the laptop as well, particularly if they're in a situation where they've been made redundant or furloughed from their work and they're using it in order to write up their CV or apply for jobs or go to the job centre website and do that kind of thing. So when I've provided the laptops, they go as a very generic vanilla installation of Windows, or if the laptop is too slow to use Windows, I use NetherReady's Cloud Ready Chromebook type operating system. But it goes out as a very vanilla generic installation. And I've since then posted a couple of videos on my Facebook channel to try and explain how to use Microsoft Family settings. Because obviously these things really do need a little bit of control around them. But I would rather that was done by the parents rather than me put something on there that then limits and controls how the laptop can be used. And then beyond that, it is I try and as best I can to put Windows on them. The Cloud Ready operating system is great for having a machine that's a browser and you can do things in a browser, but I have slightly higher aspirations, I guess, for these things. I'd like someone to maybe get into music on them, or art, or coding, or even if they just play a game of Minecraft, something that just makes it a little bit more useful than just going onto Google Classroom and doing your classwork. So that's what I've aimed for, and I've probably created a bit of a rod for my own back in that. Then refurbishing a laptop to get it to run Windows effectively means really you have to replace the old hard disk and put a solid state drive in instead, which adds a bit of cost. But I've I think in the long run I've been happy to do that, because I
Is
know
that
that this is
for compatibility or for performance reasons?
performance, really.
Performance?
Yeah, unfortunately modern Windows just hits the hard disk so hard now, as it does its constant kind of search function and whatever else. So you put a solid state disk in and it makes even quite an old laptop quite nifty actually for Windows. So once I get the laptop, then that's largely the kind of the end of the story. We've had a few back because sometimes these things just break. I've had a couple back that have been missing some parts, which was interesting. So I put the parts back in again and sent them straight back out. But by and large, that's kind of been it. And because the schools do the donation on our behalf, I have no end contact with the families. So that's the kind of the last main principle, is that I never deal with an end family that's getting the laptop. I don't need to know who it goes to. I don't want to know their circumstances. Obviously, very often it's a very personal, sensitive time for them, so they don't need me knowing their situation. So I give it to the
service
school.
to the school rather than to the
Exactly.
individual families.
Yeah. So I give it to the school.
These
and the
laptops
school,
that you get back presumably have gone back to the school, and then the school have got them back to you. So,
yeah, exactly. So I give out. So there's a letter that goes out with a laptop that basically just says it's come from me, just in case you wonder where it's come from. And the laptop is yours. It's your property now. But unfortunately, I can't give any warranty or guarantee for it working forever in the future. But that if you don't need it, please do give it back to the school, and we can repurpose it. So they know where it's come from, and I've had some very nice letters and cards back from a few families that have said thank you very much. But that's a small minority, and I'm completely fine with that, because I know I want to keep it private from their point of view.
And so in terms of data, what are you finding in connectivity in the area? Is that an issue for anybody, or is there data poverty?
Yeah. So when I started the project, I was expecting it to be quite a big issue. So actually, my background is I work in the internet industry. So I work for various service providers over the years, and in particular, earlier in my career, building broadband networks. So I was very interested in that, and I was expecting people to come back and say, "Oh, I don't have broadband connection," but by and large, they do. And but we have found a number of people who don't. Typically their situation is that they're in the middle of moving from one area to another. We've obviously have a number of refugees in the area that have come in and don't have anything to start with. We've helped a number of families that have been that are fleeing domestic abuse, and again have gone into a flat or a home and have absolutely nothing. So obviously those families need as much help as they can possibly get. But by and large, most homes in our area at least seem to have some form of broadband connectivity. It might not be very good, but it's there. But what we are finding is that sometimes people are using their mobile phones to tether to get data. And the cost of data on a pay-as-you-go contract is horribly expensive. So that does seem to be a little bit of an issue now in the cost of that data.
So well, I mean, it's good to hear that at least, I'm going to say Surrey, as a guess, more or less, has broadband coverage covered. But it's interesting, the categories of people who are having difficulties. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of people who are moving house in that sense.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I was, and
no matter how well your area is served by the infrastructure, that doesn't mean, as we keep saying, everyone has access to it at an affordable rate at the time in their life.
Yeah, and so one of the things I have been looking into a bit is if there would be a way of providing short-term free broadband to somebody. And one of the problems is that if you want to look at a kind of fiber style connection, so fiber to the cabinet VDSL2 type broadband, BT Openreach put a 12-month contract on new installations of fiber type lines, which obviously then excludes them from any short-term, 3 to 6 month broadband offer. But for regular ADSL 2 plus type connections, it's only a 1 12-month contract.
Oh, really?
For the copper line.
Mm.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, so that's the kind of route I'm going down to see if I can find somebody who would be willing to, install a line for a few months. I'll see if I can find a source of a router, a cheapy router to put onto it.
There are lots of those secondhand lying around the countryside as well. I must have 4 previous BT routers of various ages.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, every time you change your broadband connection, you get a new router thrown at you, don't you? Unfortunately, obviously, they're all locked to their service provider. So that's one of
those BT OpenReach minimum contracts. Are they the same for ISPs providing? For other ISPs providing a service? You get BT on BT OpenReach, or you might get PlusNet on BT OpenReach. Does BT OpenReach impose those minimum contracts on their contractors as well as?
Exactly. So FTTC services, you have the BT OpenReach element, which goes from the green cabinet to the house, and then for the broadband service, going back generally to the exchange. So that piece has a 12-month contract on it. The copper line that you need there for your dial tone that nobody uses anymore. I believe that is now, you can have that on a 1-month rolling contract. And if you avoid the FTTC type services and you just go for a 2+ type service, then really the bit that you're taking from OpenReach is just a copper line. Once you get back to the exchange, then it goes into one of the wholesale providers' equipment, be it BT Wholesale or Sky Network Services or TalkTalk Business or whoever else is providing the back end kind of infrastructure.
That's really interesting, because that does open up a whole, as you say, it opens up more possibilities for.
It does, yeah, it does, and it's now longer term. Obviously, that person, if they would want to keep the broadband service, they would need to take on the direct debit. So how that switchover happens isn't something I've quite figured out. I mean, I need to find first a broadband provider that's willing to kind of potentially donate a few months and see how we can figure out the process beyond that. So that's a problem that needs solving, and I'm hoping I can lean on some of my my old colleagues and old networks that I work for to see if I can make that
would be another
happen.
interesting topic to have you and someone from that background back on some other day. That'd be very interesting to go into more detail. Going back to the laptops, just briefly, I mean, I was about to ask you a question which I should understand you can't answer, which is how many families are you seeing where it's the number of people trying to use a device rather than the lack of a device completely? But you're not going to really know that, are you? Because that's only known to the schools.
I hear from the schools, and actually, interestingly, recently I've been told that a number of the Level Up laptops that have been going as second laptops for larger families that have multiple children. I wouldn't be able to say numbers, but I have a bit of a feel for that.
Because
it's definitely happening.
That's another issue for families, and that brings a whole lot more families, as it were, into the area of need potentially. Because whereas you might be able to maintain 1 or 2 devices in a family, if you've got 3 or 4 children and an adult or 2 or 3 all trying to homework, then one device isn't going to go very far, is it?
No.
And the resources that you need as a family to get to where you need to be in terms of devices is greater and greater, and might actually come out of the pupil premium category of family into others who are equally struggling. Well, another last question for me, really. Although I would be perfectly happy to talk about this forever, basically, because it's such a brilliant project.
Thank you.
Per laptop, how much time and how much money does it cost for you to accept the donated laptop, do what you have to do with it, and provide it to a school?
Yeah, sure. So my procedure on the laptop is I get a laptop in. The first thing I do when I get a laptop in is I run a secure wipe on its hard disk. So I use a piece of software called Parted Magic, which I boot up from a USB stick, and I can then, from Parted Magic, send a command to the hard disk, and it uses the hard disk's built-in secure wiping algorithm, which will run multiple passes over the disk and write kind of random bits and ones and noughts. So I always start with that. That's the first thing I always do, even if someone said to me, well, I've wiped this, and I always frankly don't trust them, and I do a secure wipe on it first. I then take the hard disk out, because very often I'm replacing that hard disk with a solid state drive. So I'll then take it out for it to then be environmentally disposed. So I use the council WE recycling process for that. And then whilst I've got the laptop apart, I'll then generally try and get rid of the dust. So the two things I found that tend to make laptops slow are the hard disk, replacing a hard disk and putting a solid state disk in, and getting rid of all of the dust out of the fan. Once you've got rid of that, the processors will slow down and thermally throttle themselves if they can't cool themselves properly. So a quick squirt of air duster, and I've got a mains powered one, which is very loud but does a really good job. Yeah, it's really very entertaining when you put it in and think a big cloud of dust comes out of this laptop.
There's infinite layers of geekery, aren't there? Really?
Oh god, it's so satisfying. It's almost as satisfying as pulling the sticky plastic off a clear plastic bit on a new bit of equipment. So squirt all that, clean it up, and then I'll put the new solid state disk in, and I'll reinstall Windows. That can take. Yeah, so the shortest time really is if I get a laptop that's got a solid state disk on it already, I will just securely wipe that and start off from fresh. And
that many of those.
No, I do get them every so often, and they're lovely. Wow. They're great days when I get those. Yeah. But most of the time they've got sort of traditional discs. I reckon it probably from start to finish, it takes me about an hour and a half per laptop. And I can normally do 5 or 6 laptops at the same time, just jumping between them, pushing them on the process and cleaning them, what have you. So yeah, I think I counted up. I reckon I've probably spent 300 to 350 hours doing the project, doing it kind of this way. And it's something that I've enjoyed, and I do in an evening. So we'll be watching Bake Off during the summer and got a bit of pizza going, and I'll have 4 or 5 laptops sitting on the lounge carpet.
That must make you popular.
I've got a very patient family.
You probably have to time the cleanings noise so that it doesn't sort of ruin the TV program.
I have to take it out the front of the house because my wife actually is rolling the vaccine out, the COVID vaccine in our area, and is permanently on Teams calls. So she gets very cross if I set this thing going halfway through the Teams calls. But yeah, so very, very, very patient family. But it also time depends on where I get the laptop from as well. So if I get businesses donating, then I'll get a set of laptops that are all very, very similar. And because business laptops tend to be more upgradable, they have little windows in the bottom of them that you can take the disk out and put a new one in. It's much quicker. Some of the kind of consumer laptops, they try and make them look all sleek and unibody, but you have to take the whole back off it in order to get inside.
Glue things in. Damn the right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can probably give some fairly good advice on what laptops to buy and not to buy based on my experiences.
That's valuable information. I might come back to you for that.
Yeah. The Lenovo's are still my favorite.
Right. Interesting.
They've been giving me the least hassle so far.
Easier to take apart. Okay.
Easy to take apart and seem to be much more durable. I won't say who my worst is. So if I get the corporate laptops in, then that's fantastic. But I can have sometimes there's some difficulties getting corporate laptops in.
We did. I think this is the conversation we had at the Digital Access Network. You were saying that some people, seem reluctant to donate because they're worried about their data getting discovered. Was that the gist of it?
Yeah, so I found that certainly at the beginning of the lockdown, so I approached a number of quite large businesses in our area to say, I know you've got cupboards full of laptops, excuse me. I know you all do. So because I know all IT departments are horrendous hoarders, and so
You're
please,
not wrong.
give me those laptops because I can make some really good use of them. And the general response I got back was, it's a lovely idea, but no, we can't give you our laptop because
reasons.
Insert data security reason here.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what they didn't count on is that one of my more recent jobs is I was technical director at Clarinet, which is a fairly large service provider, hosting provider. And I was the director responsible for security as well. So I've read ISO 27001 and I've read PCI
Oh my
DSS.
Goodness. I only know one other person who's done that.
I had to because for a number of variety of different reasons
as well. Yeah.
And I had some very, very good people in my team who did this on a day-to-day basis, but I felt I really had to read the standards. And so I know what's in there and I know what they say. So I could go back to them and say, well, I'm not sure this is actually such a big issue. If you really do have a data security issue, firstly, why aren't you encrypting your hard disks? Because if you're encrypting your hard disks, there's no data security issue.
That's the first thing.
Yeah. And they were like, well, no, we encrypt our hard disks, but
reason.
Wait. And I rather foolishly went down the route saying, well, what happens if one of your laptops is stolen or lost? Do you just presume all your data is therefore lost and you then, record a data breach and you go to the ICO? And no, I don't reckon you do you? So you must obviously have good enough data security on your laptops when you encrypt them to mean that if you're given. But anyway, fine, let's put that to one side. So what about if you just give us the laptops without their hard disks installed? Because the hard disk is the thing that obviously has the data on them. So if this is a problem, take the hard disk out. I probably don't want the hard disk anyway. So you're actually doing me a favor. Take the hard disk out.
I know a local authority in the far north of Scotland who operates on that basis when it donates
Yeah. Oh, that's good for that local authority, because local authorities have been the worst for coming up with these reasons that I found.
Well, I'll in Orkney, we've been thinking about this for many years because we regularly we're very close to the community, it's a very small community, lots of people know each other. And it was obvious to some people in the community that we were replacing laptops every 5 or 6 years, and the ones that we were replacing might be of some use. So for years now, we've had the policy of you can have it, but you need to find a hard disk for yourself and you're on your own kind of thing.
Yeah, no, and that's a brilliant way to be. So the security side of things. Once I kind of bat away those kind of problems, then the next thing I found is that actually finding somebody who is one of the kind of the CIO, CTO, CEO, directors of the company, getting someone like that to lean on IT then tends to be quite useful, because then I can then arm them with the reasons why it's actually all fine, and then you can have a little internal argument about it. And the other thing I found, unfortunately, which is much more of a commercial issue, is and this was one of the problems with local authorities, is giving laptops. Once you finish your laptop, you give it to a recycler, and they sometimes give you a bit of money back, and they count on that money for their budgets.
Right. Okay.
So unfortunately, I can't replace that, and that rather kind of stalled the conversation. But yeah, now. I'm now starting to get a fairly decent number from businesses, and the urgency of this one, I think, of this issue now is being much better understood, and that seems to be now getting past the kind of data security problems. But yeah, that was a fun part of the process.
That's great. That's really great.
So have you linked up with any other projects, Martin, or was that meeting that we went to the kind of first place where you met other people who are doing the kind of things you are? Yeah.
That's the first time, and it's been really interesting to see how other people have been doing things. Other projects have just been installing the cloud-ready operating system, which is great. Some projects have been putting various flavors of Linux on the laptops, which is also fab. Some have been focusing more on tablets and iPads. So yeah, everyone has their own little kind of twist on it, but I think everyone has the same feeling of the problem and the same sense of urgency, and the feeling that this is really something that can actually be fixed.
So when you put Windows on, is that a new license for Windows that you need? Or?
No, so I've been you can actually use a Windows 7 license still to install Windows 10. That was an official thing, but it got supposedly discontinued about a year and a half ago, but it still works. So I've been using that method. So I asked for laptops that have a Windows 7 license.
Okay.
That's partially so I know that it's new enough to mean it can run Windows 10, and partially because I use the license key.
Yes.
For a few, I have bought Windows license keys, but if I've needed to, but generally speaking, I haven't. Which is
So that you reckon it's about an hour and a half per machine in batches of 5 or 6, but in terms of pounds per machine.
Yes, sorry, you did ask that.
Assuming you have to replace the disk and that it's just you have to do almost everything without too many problems.
So if it's just replace the disk, that's normally about £25. Although it's gone up to about £30 the last couple of weeks, as I think there's been a bit of a run on hard disks recently. So that gets you a 240 gigabyte solid state drive from Amazon. I would say then the average is probably more in the £35 to £40 a laptop area, because sometimes I have to replace power supplies, because they sometimes come without their power supplies, and I've had to replace a few keyboards and batteries. Batteries, unfortunately, quite expensive. That's another 20, 25, 30 quid. So yeah, I would say on average we're probably sitting at about, well, actually on average you take 315 divided by, I think it's £5,200 we've had. So that's your actual average. I got a big batch of laptops from Gatwick that had a solid state discs in, which was
right.
And they were pre-wiped and pre-installed with Windows. So it's like, thank you very much.
Excellent.
Off they go. Job done.
Great.
So
so
that put the
it's an absolutely wonderful project, and it's great to hear you describe it in so much detail, actually, because I've, in the back of my mind, I have theoretically all the skills to do what you're doing, but not very much. I haven't used them for years and years and years, and it's been in the back of my mind.
You both could do this.
This can't be that difficult. I mean, but then to actually sit down and work out precisely what the procedure is and work out how to do it. I mean, you've got here a model that literally anyone with a screwdriver and a bit of confidence could take on.
Absolutely, And some of the volunteers, so we haven't really talked very much about the kind of... I was
going to ask you about that. Who else helping you?
So Fidelity in the Red Hill, I think they have given us 6 or 7 volunteers. And only one of them came from the IT department. The others were just people that were interested and keen to help, and have very, very quickly picked it up. So that's been fantastic. We've had a number of other volunteers who've come through voluntary action, right, getting Banstead. So that's a organisation set up to do that. So they've found those. And the great thing about having VARB involved is that they obviously add a lot of important process around clarifying who these people are and doing the is it DBS checks? I can never remember the new initials for it. So making sure that these people are legitimate. Because there is a little bit of a safeguarding issue with these laptops. You do want to know who's been working on them and what their background is, because potentially there is a possibility of a rogue actor coming in and installing software on a laptop that you don't want them to. So one of the things actually I've been doing with more recently my laptops is I've been installing the little webcam covers. Again, just purely from a kind of safeguarding point of view, that when the child or student gets the laptop, if the cover is over, they have to open it up in order to use it. And those things are pennies, so it seemed like another additional little thing to add to the list.
That sounds really good. So have you been contacted by projects elsewhere in the country yet, Martin, or do you expect to be?
So I've been offering kind of services if you want to help get a level up project set up in your area. I'm happy to help. So there is a business on the south coast called SoPro who have set up a level up project down there. So they've just got going, which is fantastic. So they're covering the kind of Brighton area and Sussex Sussex counties, East and West Sussex. And I've started now making contact with some of the other voluntary action groups. So there's one for Tandridge, which is the borough next to ours, and for Central Surrey. And I've been in fairly regular contact with with our MP here, and offered to her to say, if you spread the word to the rest of the MPs, I'm very happy to again lend any knowledge and experience. But it looks like, to be honest, from the call that we had a week or two ago, there's actually quite a lot of little projects picking up now on this. So I think really we just need to be talking to each other and helping others get going a little bit more quickly than I found. I think the key thing though for me is I think it works best as a local project. Having a big national kind of body doing it. Absolutely. Well, I think so, because from the donations, because I felt I got donations because people could see me as a local person donating to a local school, and people were giving me laptops knowing that they would go straight back to their local area. And I think people have been a lot more generous because of that, which has really helped. One of the other things that has helped me somewhat is probably my councillor status, because there's some people would say they don't trust their politicians and councillors. I don't count myself as a politician in the slightest, but
I think you said you're a town council.
Yeah, it's very apolitical. But having a council email address helps. And the fact that obviously I'm checked out by the council and everyone knows my background, that has helped a little bit as well. So I've tried getting in contact with the National Association of Local Councils to see if they would be interested. So I'm trying a few things.
Good. Martin, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So if you search on Google for Level Up Laptop or Level Up Laptop Appeal, you'll find I have a Facebook page. That's probably the best one to use. But you'll also see there is a Hawley Town Council website for it, and the voluntary action website as well. Or if you want to use email, my email address is martin.saunders@hawleysurrey-tc.gov.uk, which is not very easy to remember. Use Facebook.
Discoverable,
yeah. Use Facebook.
Hard to remember.
Use Facebook.
I'm desperately trying to find the Facebook page. Here we are.
It's got the.
We'll share that one.
It's got the purple Level Up logo on it. It's hard to stop.
Yes.
Hard to miss.
Hard to miss. Yeah. It's great. It's great you're getting. It's great that it's a joint effort. Supported by other organisations, because I think that's that's really positive. And one of the stories that we're going to hopefully have time to talk about in Dorset is a similar one. So on the screen now is the Facebook page for Level Up Laptop Appeal.
Lovely.
With lots of detail about how to.
And there's a picture of the 300th laptop.
300th laptop.
There's
very quickly, there's a funny story behind that one, because Levi, who's the young chap that we gave the laptop to, so we were kind of doing this handover of a laptop, and as you can see, there's kind of confetti over the left-hand side, and they got these kind of confetti guns, a bit like kind of these kind of poppers that you do at Christmas and what have you, but they're much, much bigger. And they had no idea how loud these things were. When they put them off, they were like two cannons going off either side of this poor kid. And he's kind of, I was expecting this laptop to do kind of pirouettes and fly off into the bushes in the background. It was so loud. But that was fantastic.
Yeah, nice to see. Yeah, it's always nice to have a visual for these sort of things. So for our listeners on Hope Radio, it's a picture of a man in a suit handing a laptop over
teacher,
to.
Surely.
Probably head teacher.
Yes.
Handing over a laptop to a young person in a tracksuit, I think. But I think they both look very happy, so that's great.
Yeah.
Well done, Martin. That's
thank
great.
You very much.
And hopefully we can keep in touch and hear more about your project. What are you hoping for the next 3 to 6 months?
I'm apart from getting this vaccine out and being able to go to the pub, I'm very keen to get, I think we all are, I'm very keen to look in this internet issue a bit more to see if we can solve that. And I'm also interested in technical support help because what seems clear now is that once you get the laptop and you might hit against a problem, how do I use it? There doesn't seem to be many places that people can go to get friendly help from somebody. I've not been doing that so far, and I've been shying away from it because it's very time intensive work. I've done that job. But that does seem to be a gap at the moment, as far as I can tell, unless one of your viewers may know about projects, and I'd love to know about
we
them.
have
But
we have
so you're talking
contacts with
about
various projects, like Citizens Online and places like that where people can upskill. But I think you're talking about an IT help desk nearly.
it is really, yeah.
Are you talking about hardware support rather than user support?
I think more software, some more Windows support.
Right. Okay.
How do I stop my kids looking at things they shouldn't do?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do I put time limits on? How do I install Office?
Yeah.
Why can't I print? These kind of
yes, we got a couple of colleagues who've been on before coming on the show in a couple of weeks, Paul Clayton and Casper Kennerdale, who do that sort of thing. So
okay.
But we know there are other projects around the country as well. Sweyn, I just wanted to cover a couple of the stories that we picked up as well during the week. We'll skip the one on the arts one. We can come back to that one. But Chris Ashworth, who's been on the show before, tweeted on the 27th of January about a new project called Click Zero, which has been officially launched on that date to help tackle data poverty and the digital divide. And they're asking for, he and colleagues are asking for all essential online services that people absolutely depend on to have their data charges removed. Online public services support the UK when people are vulnerable, out of work, disadvantaged, or in crisis, and this is covering the NHS online to universal credit application. These are essential services in the digital age. They're saying, and never more important than now. But data poverty means access to the essential services isn't universal. And Chris and the Click Zero website points out there are millions of families in the UK on the wrong side of the digital divide. Just as an 0800 number or a prepaid envelope remove costs for the user, zero-rated government digital services where no data is charged ensures this cost is not one of the barriers contributing to digital exclusion. It's an independent campaign developed by individuals with a background in civil society, tech for good, and social design. And the team were involved in the initial zero rating of NHS and public health sites for COVID-19 in the UK and continue to call for the principle to be extended and embedded into society. So the hashtag is Click Zero.
Hashtag zero, that's the website as well. It's clickzero.uk. Clickzero.uk.
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about that, they can.
I've been not sharing that all that time. Never mind.
No. They can get online and have a look at that. And there was, I know we got time for maybe two last stories.
Yep.
Okay, so there's one from Preston where that's the Click Zero one on screen now. Yep. Campaign to make essential online services free. Yep. So we move on to the one from Preston. This is 6GI, which I think is a private company, but they have an Internet for Everyone initiative focused largely in the Blackburn and Darwin areas, where they're working with schools, charities and community groups to help people get online. And as the network continues to grow, they're now in a position to launch the initiative in neighbouring Preston. And they've made links with the Preston-based social landlord, Onward Homes, and 3 local schools. So at a time when people can't get the free Wi-Fi they would have had from libraries, they can hopefully link up with this project and get some help. And the last one is
6ginternet.com. 6ginternet.com.
Sorry, Sweyn, I'm moving on to the last one, which is the Dorset one. A pilot project looking at the local print assets in Dorset communities. And this is important because we recognise that not everybody has access to digital, and even if they do, they may still need on a printed material or radio or phone or some other non device way of getting in touch with what's going on. And this is a project mapping local print communications to help reduce the impact of digital exclusion and inequality by a group called Help and Kindness in Dorset. And it looks to be a consortium of local helping organisations, including the council and voluntary organisations. And they've received really positive feedback about posting printed information in workplace settings, with lots of ideas in the discussions on using canteen notice boards, pay slips, even the inside of toilet cubicle doors. So places where people need to find information that's not just on a device. So we like to support those kind of projects as well. We have colleagues. We've had Neil Lawrence on from Dorset County Council before. He's recently become the web manager there, talking about what's happening in Dorset. So we do try to cover stories up and down the country, as we do with Martin today. So I think that was really good and very useful, and hopefully people will have learned a lot of technical information as well. We do say don't try and change your hard disk at home if you haven't got the tools and the knowledge, but it's hard to break the internet, so maybe have a go if you're feeling brave. So thanks very much, everybody, for Martin and Sweyn and myself for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, Martin. John Popham would have absolutely loved this project.
He would.
It's just exactly where he was in his thinking.
Very, very hands-on. Yeah. And greetings to our guests on Hope Radio, and we hope to see you again next week. Thank you very much.